And good morning. This is Wake Up Patriots. I'm Chris Cordani. I'm here alone for a little while because the boss, Tony Shaffer, is he's on Newsmax right now. He's coming in just a little bit. So we do have a lot to talk about today. Very happy to speak to you. Hope you had a wonderful Labor Day weekend, holiday weekend, however you want to put it. And it's nice to see you all again. We're going to have Tony here in just a bit. Karyn, unfortunately, is out, but I do have a very special guest later on. Her name is Dr. Rachel Ehrenfeld. She's an expert on, of course, the globalist, George Soros, and the like. She's the author of the book, The Soros Agenda. We're going to talk about the many ways George Soros has tried to destroy the free world and why he's still doing it, why nations allow this, why voters seem to be drawn to it. And I'm not talking about us, the Patriots. We're awake. No, it's the other guys. It's the people who are just stuck in this, and dare I say cult, the cult of annoying personality. Not even the cult of personality, the cult of annoying personality. The entire Democrat Party collective. So, good morning, and thank you very much, Inside of Myself. We're going to be talking directly to you guys, the Patriots, until Tony gets here, and we're going to have the doctor in just soon as well. I do want to get into something that I want to talk about once again, and something I'm actually good at discussing: media bias, because I've lived around it. I've been in newsrooms. I've been a news director. I have dealt with other reporters, and I know what these politicians, reporters are like, and how these reporters love to be at the cool kids' table. So they kind of give their own favorite politicians a little bit of I'll just say a favorability when it comes to biased reporting. However, when it comes to those perceived as the enemy, those in the newsrooms who the reporters decide to wake up to an attack, they go through any length, including lying and selective editing, to bring across their point or push their agenda. Let's go to the videotape. Well, let's go to a couple videotapes. Thank goodness Secretary Kristi Noem, our DHS secretary, has kept the receipts when it came to dealing with CBS. It's Face the Nation interview with her and a discussion about the Maryland man, the beloved Maryland man of the left, Kilmar Abrego. I'm a gang member, MS-13 guy and trafficker Garcia. In fact, Face the Nation decided to cut part of this out to defend this Maryland man that the liberals, the left, seem to think is still their martyr cause when it comes to Donald Trump and immigration. Let's hear this. Let's hear the uncut response that Kristi Noem gave. And let's hear the cut, the protected class response that was aired.
And the one thing that we will continue to do is to make sure that he doesn't walk free in the United States of America. This individual was a known human smuggler, MS-13 gang member, an individual who was a wife beater, and someone who was so perverted that he solicited nude photos from minors. And even his fellow human traffickers told him to knock it off. He was so sick in what he was doing and how he was treating small children. So he needs to never be in the United States of America. And our administration is making sure we're doing all that we can to bring him to justice. And the one thing that we will continue to do is to make sure that he doesn't walk free in the United States of America. This individual was a known human smuggler, MS-13 gang member, an individual who was a white.
You heard that, right? That's it. They cut out the important parts. Now, you might remember 60 Minutes, not very long ago, selectively editing the Kamala Harris interview. So just to make her look better. Well, they did this to make her look worse. And CBS's response, Face the Nation's response, well, she was lying. She didn't tell the truth. CBS's own reporting earlier said that this guy was picked up for trafficking. This guy was a member of MS-13. But wait a minute. Now all of a sudden, Kristi Noem says it? And you have these left-wing sites calling her what was that? Something of a, I don't know, whatever kind of ice Barbie or something like that, which I would think is a compliment. I'm not a big fan of the way Noam handled the South Park thing, because South Park really does exaggerate and make fun of everybody, or at least did a long time ago. They've gone a little bit woke now. I haven't seen South Park in a long time. Now, since after Mr. Garrison was president, which was probably the best part of the whole thing. I like the idea that they wrote themselves into that corner. But again, I'll digress. This is not new for for these reporters. I'm listening to Aaron Burnett, as a matter of fact, and they were talking about the mortgage fraud situation with Letitia James and Democrats. And now, wait till Act Blue's mortgage fraud scandal comes out to the forefront, which it probably won't if these people have their druthers. Fact is, though, they decided back in 2019. Here's Aaron Burnett, and boy, she's a major perpetrator of all this. Love these. Roger Stone, thank you for posting this. But think about this. She back in 2019 when, oh my gosh, well, Trump mortgage fraud. Well, we got to put him in jail for that one. But all of a sudden, when it comes to Adam Schiff and Letitia James for the mortgage fraud, by the way, the latter had persecuted Donald Trump for. All of a sudden, well, it's being used as a weapon. Let's hear the two sides of Aaron Burnett again.
Charges, residential mortgage fraud, among them, one of the most serious. So he's looking at
just a moment.
one to.
This happens all the time. I know it doesn't happen all the time. Let's hear the two sides of the not so lovely Aaron Burnett.
Charges, residential mortgage fraud, among them, one of the most serious. So he's looking at 1 to 3 years minimum, 8 to 25 years maximum. These are huge ranges, but those would be inescapable, right? There's nothing a president can do to pardon on a state charge. Mortgage fraud by public officials. Mortgage fraud. This is a specific charge, and it is Trump's new weapon being used against many enemies. A way to penalize, remove, perhaps even jail them.
Well, of course it is. It's the idea of saying, well, let's say if you used a gun and brought it to a knife fight, I'm going to bring a gun too. Think about that. She's all upset because the very thing that she cheered on, by the way, on CNN is being used against her friends now, her people, the people she wants to hang out with, the people she likes to suck up to. And all of a sudden, oh, it's being used as a weapon. I am sorry. These CNN types were asleep between 2021 and 2025 when the government was being used as a weapon on a regular basis. Heck, I'm going to venture that they weren't even around. They were asleep at the wheel during the Obama administration when the government was being used as a weapon. And that includes the spying on Donald Trump's campaign. That includes the plot to destroy him and then overthrow his presidency when he finally beat Hillary Clinton. Heck, Dr. Corsi was discussing a theory, the idea that Barack Obama wanted to find a way for both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump to lose so he can install a puppet in there. Because trust me, the Obamas and the Clintons, they're not pals. The only reason that woman was given the job of Secretary of State was there were two reasons. One, because, well, he owed her for Kennedy switching everything over, and it was supposed to be her turn in 2008. But the other one is Barack knew you keep your friends close and your enemies closer. That's kind of what we have to do here. That's why we wake other people up on Wake Up Patriots. I always thought about that. What a name, Wake Up Patriots. Great name because we're waking you guys up. But people who need to be woken up are pretty much those on the left. Those who need, you know what they need? They need something akin to that. There's people who kidnap you in the van and try to deprogram you from cults. Imagine doing that with every one of your liberal friends. I don't know how you'd even do that. That's a tall order. What do you think? So what do you think, Democrats? Jump in our windowless van here. The fact is, though, I have to ask you all, what are your thoughts on this whole thing? The news media has doubled down on selective editing. They've doubled down on cheering for their own people. They've doubled down on favoring Democrats. They're doubling down on favoring liberal policies, and they're doubling down on masking this supposed Maryland man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's their cause du jour. He's back in. By the way, what is this guy doing back in the news? Oh, I know what he's doing back in the news. He's covering up for this, Robin Westlake or the Minnesota shooter. Every leftist, every Democrat, and most of these journalists were disgraceful when it came to the Minnesota shooting, the Minneapolis shooting. Just think about this. This is another angry trans activist, an angry trans who decided again. No, this is another angry trans who decided to target children at a Christian religious school. Just let that sink in, because there were, I believe, 7 instances of this happening over the last few years. 7. And yet USA Today, which came out and actually put a report out saying, no, there is no epidemic of trans shootings against religious children. The fact is, you're talking about an extremely small portion of the population, albeit very overrepresented in media, on television, and of course within the Democrat Party, way overrepresented. A very tiny percentage of the population committing the vast majority of school shootings involving children at a religious institution school aimed at Catholics and other Christians. That's right. So when is it time for us to sit down and finally say, let's discuss the let's have a serious conversation about the mental illness in the trans community and why it's happening. I'm not one. I'm one to say that, look, the manifesto means a lot, and this Minnesota shooter, Minneapolis shooter, the murderer, this trans Robert, whatever the heck he wants to or she wanted to call himself at the time. I don't even care to mention the guy's name. I really don't. The idea is, he in his journal, he blamed his mother. Now, keep in mind, the mother also worked at the institution and gladly signed off on this kid's transition. Gladly and happily, and along with the father, signed off on this kid's transition. Apparently, the father worked for intelligence. He was a contractor. That's another thing we could put aside here. Maybe bring that into the mix. Think about this, though. This guy wasn't even sure what he was at one point. The mother gladly signs off on this. He becomes deranged after becoming trans. A couple of years later, he starts shooting up kids, and in his manifesto, he's saying, "I don't know who I am anymore. I don't want this transition anymore. I don't want to be a girl anymore." Well, my gosh, you were pushed into this when you were a minor. This is why we argue minors should not be making these decisions. Their brains aren't formed enough. What? A girl likes to play baseball with the boys, and all of a sudden she's some kind of man? There you go. RD Bull, you're right. San Francisco's creating a trans district. It's a disaster waiting to happen. I get it. It's the Democrats trying to push their inclusivity. But my problem really is these parents. And that's right. Very sus on the kids' parents, angels unawares, because here's what I'm saying. These people who sign off and push these kids and love to have the idea that their kid is going to become trans just wants to sign off and say, hey, I can't wait to show all my friends and everybody on TikTok and on YouTube, or wherever else I want to be on social media and become a star, that my kid is trans and I'm so inclusive and woke for allowing this to happen. These parents, and I'm going to say it right now, they're doing it for themselves and not for the kid. They're doing it for themselves. Look at that Gwyneth Paltrow, whatever her name, Gwyneth Paltrow. I don't want to raise a baby. I'm going to raise a baby. A baby. This isn't about the kid. The kid, a newborn, a toddler is going to decide what their gender is? No, this is all about the parent patting themselves on the back and showing off and not even caring about the mental well-being of their child. Yeah, look, I know a teacher friend of mine who was arguing with me about this a couple of years ago, and she brought up Jazz Jennings. You know, I Am Jazz, the book. That's almost required reading for these kids in school. Well, remember, Jazz Jennings also came out and said her parents pushed this whole thing on him, whatever, and didn't want this transition after a while, but she stuck with it, and she's mentally ill. That's right. Yeah, Trini's mom is awful. You're 100% right. What a scourge. This woman also retained counsel. Hey, if she didn't do nothing, and she was just a kind mother of a kid who wanted to turn trans, oh my gosh, she wouldn't need counsel. She needs counsel. Something is going to happen. And the state of Minnesota is part of this too, because the state of Minnesota allows itself to take children away from their parents if the parents won't let them transition. Think about this. What are your thoughts of on all this? That's right. Oh, thank you, Angels again. Minnesota court documents purged since that discovery. And what does the Minneapolis mayor say? Don't use this to demean the transgender community. And then Jake Tapper on air lectures us about using the proper pronouns for this thing. The proper pronoun is he. And he even said it in his manifesto, or his journal, I should say. He did not want this transition anymore. And you know what else he said? And this was poignant, and this was never mentioned in pretty much, or at least never discussed openly. And I'm going to do it right now. I want to throw this at you. This kid, this guy, this young person, and he's not old, he's young. He was confused. He's mentally ill. And he's a disgusting murderer. But he says that he couldn't trans back because of repercussions. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he was saying that there were going to be some serious repercussions to him if he learned about that if he transitioned back. In other words, the trans mafia was going to probably do something to him or embarrass him and shame him on social media, which is not very good for somebody who's mentally ill in the first place, because they're always looking for affirmation on social media, these people. By the way, Padam, thank you. I was a tomboy, so glad that she's saying this, not me. I was a tomboy, so glad this crap wasn't a thing back then. Sheree Curry said that. Yeah, what, you like to play baseball? You want to play King of the Mountain with the guys? Fine. You're still a girl. Yeah. And that's right. That's another thing. When do we have a serious conversation about mental illness in the trans community? Even the trans mafia talks about the high suicide rate. That's a big part of it. And the high suicide rate, and these people, these disgustingly sick people who want to take some children out with them just because he's pissed at his mother. I'm going to pass the baton over to Tony. But we're talking about the Minneapolis shooter and the disgraceful display from the politicians and from news media over this. USA Today, or USA Today had a headline that
Go ahead.
No, there's no epidemic of trans people shooting up schools. This is 7 trans people over the years. 7. And by the way,
Well, go ahead.
Yeah. For you, Tony. How about that? I want to play this for you. CNN scolded, or the chick on CNN, I always forget, they're all interchangeable funnies. Brianna scolding and trying to, lying outright to Sebastian Gorka about.
Oh, yeah, Seb did a good job in this. Go ahead. Yeah,
right, I think he did. He's always calm when it comes to these.
96% of attackers when you're looking at the U.S. Secret Service National Threat Assessment Center, looking at 172 mass attacks in the U.S. between 2016 and 2020, 96% were non-trans men. So I know you're focusing on this shooter being trans. The shooter was trans, and that is certainly of note. But are you missing the bigger picture here when you zero in on that instead of more broadly these school shooters as an epidemic, and you perhaps miss the through line that connects them all?
Well, no, because your facts obfuscate 2 things. You are using data based upon the predominant gun violence, which is gang on gang violence with 0 ideological content.
Hey-o! He deserves that.
If you remove all of that, the gang violence on the streets of Chicago, LA, Detroit, then you come down to a much smaller data set. So it's like those who say, gun violence in America causes so many deaths, and then fail to note that the majority of the stats they are using refer to also suicides by gun, which of course is not what we are talking about here today. So let's concentrate on mass shootings at schools, specifically Christian or Catholic schools. Then the data set is wholly different. So
I want to get to that, Tony. I mentioned this before. I want to throw this at you.
Yeah.
This is an extremely small percentage of the U.S. population, albeit overrepresented in the media and everywhere else. A very small percentage. except this is a extremely high percentage of school shootings targeting children at religious schools and institutions. There is a serious, this is a high percentage. It's, I mean, this is off the charts, if you will.
Yeah. So, three things. First, the way it's been portrayed is inaccurate. And you brought up the point that there's been targeting not only of schools, but of religious, especially Catholic churches over the past years that, hold on a second. Oh, John Huddy just confirmed for Thursday, Chris, by the way. I'll get you email. We're having John Huddy on. We'll talk about that in a bit. Anyway, back to the trans issue. The issue of what was going on with that trans community is what's key. There's indications, and if you go on my X account and check out the feed, I've reposted some of the more vicious trans, what do we call trans leaders? Tim Walz? No.
Oh,
Forget I said that.
Hey, Tim Walz. I don't look good in the dress. That's why I can't be trans.
No. He's more like Tinkerbell. But my point is, you have opinion makers who are calling to include the lieutenant governor under Walz for violence. So, and she literally wore a T-shirt, Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota. Minnesota, nice. I guess you're not so nice in Minnesota anymore, right, Chris?
No, in fact, look, this is a state, and we've talked about this with Cherie Curry, and we talked about this other people. We talked about this amongst ourselves with the Patriots.
Yeah,
this is a state that takes your child away if you don't let them trans.
Yeah.
That's
So you have a Democrat industry that's set up with the medical industry. It's a profit-making enterprise. Cherie Curry talks about it all the time. They're doing a movie called Leaving Amy, which will be out at some point. We'll talk about that a lot, about how there's an advocacy for this sort of thing. And it's all about mental health. So when Seb gets on CNN and says, I don't buy your BS, Seb is completely justified because it's BS. And the whole idea that, there's only a small percentage of trans committing mass shootings, that's a lie.
That's a high percentage of the trans community.
The mass shootings. So if two can play at that game, because if you want to count mass shootings, let's go look at Chicago. Every weekend, Chris.
Yes.
There's a mass shooting. 7 people died. 30 were shot this past weekend. And nobody, because it's all minorities. Let me just say this. It's all because they're black. Because they're black, the white Democrats don't care.
I'm going to submit this to you, and I want to throw this at you, because the Democrats are the ones telling you Black Lives Matter, but apparently they don't. Okay, because they're not going to. They don't like the idea of crime in black neighborhoods going down, or they don't like the idea, or they seem to enjoy the fact that their murders, the murder capitals of the world, are always their blue states. But they don't need extra help with the police. In fact, they need to defund them. Secondly, you have these people protecting supposed transgender pronouns, while the community itself has mass shooters targeting children and a very high suicide rate, something never really talked about over there. I'm guessing to the Democrats, maybe within themselves, because this wokeism is destroying their party, maybe they like the idea of these people destroying themselves and maybe taking some others with them. I mean, this is it's something I thought about over a long time, but this is coming to fruition. You have to ask yourself, why don't Democrats want to protect the very people who they want to vote for them from criminals? Why don't they want to protect the people who have a high rate of mental illness within their community? No, they want to protect their pronouns and pat themselves on the back. They sure as hell don't want to do nothing about the mentally ill portion I would say until it's too late, but it's been too late for a long time. There are children have died because of Democrat policies, because of Democrat protectionism of so-called marginalized groups. I'm not talking about just the children who were murdered by transgender or angry transgenders, who they themselves, some of them were pushed into transgendering before their time, if you will, whether they wanted to or not, maybe. But then you have these black communities. Black on black crime is extremely high. You remember what was it, the Tawana Brawley? I'm bringing this back because I have a very good point here. The Tawana Brawley incident happened in my neck of the woods, the Hudson Valley, back in the 90s. It was the biggest story in the nation. And you had these disgusting lawyers, Alton Maddox and C. Vernon Mason, and that camera hog who made himself a star over this, Al Sharpton. I think Tawana Brawley was raped, but I don't think of this is a woman. This is a girl who was afraid that she was going to be yelled at by her parents for coming home late. So she put a paper bag, a garbage bag on her head, pretended she was raped, and it was a whole big case. I'm getting into this. I'm going to my point here. Every camera, every news organization was in Poughkeepsie for an extremely long time, even to the point where Sharpton falsely accused a prosecuting attorney. And that prosecuting attorney had to be investigated on the word of a grifter. But nobody ever heard at the same time of somebody named Girl X. Who is Girl X, might you ask? Around the same time, and the number escapes me as far as the age. I believe she was either 6 or 9. A little girl in an all-black neighborhood in Chicago was gang raped by black, gang members, if you will, or black pals. If my memory kind of is a little unclear on that, and there was virtually no coverage on this, or you didn't see this anywhere. This is a real rape. This is a little girl being raped by disgusting savages in a black neighborhood. This is realism when it comes to black on black crime in black neighborhoods. This is the kind of thing that should have been stopped a long time ago. But no, it was all about the false story because white people might have raped her. And white on black crime, even if it's fake, is a big story. Tony will be back in just a moment here. We're working on that. He's sent me a message here. No, he lost power. I see. That's what the idea. So we'll get Tony right back. I hate when power gets lost. That happened to me once. Remember when Cousin Vinny was on? I was on there as well. But yeah, I'm glad you're here, though. I'm glad you're here with me. I'm glad you're here and everything. But I should read some of your comments as well. I want to thank you for participating in this. In my spiritual warfare prayer, the Lord has led me to prayer and the awakening of the spiritual blindness, deception that plays a part in it. Thank you, loves Christ. And believe me, this is spiritual deception. And I like that because the media and these Democrats don't care about the black community. They care about patting themselves on the back and saying Trump is Hitler, and the Republicans are mean for having more of a police presence. And that's right, Red Ginger. Sharpton is the biggest you-know-what on the planet. Remember them. We're going to talk about another grifter who became famous, a lefty's hero by committing crimes. This just like Al Sharpton, probably on a larger scale, just a little bit. Sharp tongue, I like that. There was a guy on ABC named Jay Diamond, who turned into an ultra liberal, by the way, but he was a conservative at one point, and he used to make fun of Al Sharpton. And he'd do sketches at late night and call him Al Sharkman, saying he was really Jewish. I think that bothered Al. That was kind of funny. He became a whiny liberal after that. I don't know what happened to him. Yes, Trixie, E. Jean should get a boot up her nose because of what happened to. That was another liar. Yes, Lou, Sharpton is a troublemaker. Sean Lucas, yes, Trix is my favorite cereal too. I love these Patriots comments here. And by the way, speaking of Patriots, Bill Belichick didn't have quite a good start at University of North Carolina. 41 unanswered points. It's not a Bill Belichick team unless you're talking about the old. What was it? Wasn't he coach of the Jets when they were 1-15? Or no, I'm thinking of Kotite. That's right. Belichick was the coach of the Browns when they were losing all those games. Like I was saying, Tony,
I'm back.
Democrats don't care about the black community. They don't care about the transgender community, and they don't really care about the gay community. They care about the socialists who are kind of pushing these from behind the scenes. But they don't care about what's happening because they can use the issues to force people or to keep people on their knees. And that's why grifters like Al Sharpton became stars over Tawana Brawley, and nobody talked about Girl X, who I just discussed a little while ago.
Well, yeah, hold on a second. I was just doing some sewing. So anyway, back to the show. So the thing with Tawana Brawley, it was all. Did he go to jail for that or not? He got
no. He became a star over that. He lied and actually tried to blame a prosecutor.
Yeah.
A prosecuting attorney ruined his marriage, by the way, over the whole thing. And this is a complete lie. Meantime, in Chicago, a little 6-year-old or 9-year-old, I forgot the age, was gang raped by a bunch of savages in her neighborhood, left to die, and there was zero coverage, or virtually zero coverage of that at the same time. This is why I believe these media types and Democrats do not care about what happens in these neighborhoods. You know why? Because they don't have to live near them. They don't have to live with anybody. It's not in their backyard.
Well, they don't. And so, but this is the beauty of Donald Trump. So right now, he's using the power of the federal government to prove them wrong. DC's being like the first example. You had a mayor, Muriel Bowser, who was hostile to the idea of federal troops coming in, and now she's a fan. And I think, sometimes you got to give people medicine, right, Chris? Sometimes the medicine's pretty bad, but you got to take the medicine. So, by the way, Chicago's a special case because I think obviously they promote transgenderism, they promote blue collar jobs, although illegal aliens are both draining their economy. Brandon Johnson, old pointy head, is taking all the money for the schools and giving it to illegal aliens. And you've got Governor Pizza the Hut Pritzker. By the way, did you know that he's limited to only eating 2 Pizza Huts per weekend? He can't eat more than that. If he does, he'll go to, I guess, some sort of a Pizza Hut prison or something.
Interesting. Well, the fact it's also not a lot of Chinese buffets either. Like, I played the old John Panetti routine. You're gone now. You eat too much.
So, that's why the Chinese got him. The Chinese have offered him, by the way, if he works for them, an unlimited Chinese buffet. That's how they got him. It's like, you work for us, we'll give you an unlimited China buffet. Just saying. So, that means you could go to Beijing and just, eat. So that's quite the promise. That's a big subversive tool by the Chi-Coms, right? Unlimited Chinese buffets for Governor Pritzker. That was what got him in. It was Fang for what's well. Anyway, back to the trans issue. I don't mean to divert. So go ahead.
Well, actually, I was going to play some Brandon Johnson for you, but
please,
you have
Brandon Johnson, please.
Okay, and because what Pritzker was saying, he's yammering on during the Labor Day protests about how he doesn't need anybody. Nobody's doing nothing over there. We're protecting democracy. Around the same weekend, we had that big massacre, death and injured.
No federal troops in the city of Chicago. No militarized force in the city of Chicago. We're going to defend our democracy in the city of Chicago. We're going to protect the humanity of every single person in the city of Chicago.
Yeah, well, I don't think he's done a good job of that, do you?
No, that's not true. So, yeah, let's, I guess 7 people lost the fight with democracy, right? Because they're dead, right, Chris? I mean, and 30 others got shot for democracy, for preserving their democracy. And let me point this out. The Patriots all know it. We have a republic. It's a constitutional republic. We don't have a democracy. The Soviet Union had a democracy, and they had one party, and they all voted the same way. That's what their democracy is all about. Cuba is technically a democracy, but it's not the democracy that we want. Just saying, it's not. We don't want democracy, and all this direct democracy that they want, where the will of the people, you vote, and everything happens based on the vote. Well, first off, we know votes can be manipulated. 2020, and then also we know within the context of voting, as Stalin said, he who counts the votes basically run the election. So it's not about voting, it's about who counts the votes. And I think that's where we've learned some hard lessons. So Chicago is literally corrupt. from the governor's office to the mayor's office, the gerrymandering we saw, it's insane. So at this point, I don't want to hear from Brandon Johnson, who allows on a weekly basis a mass shooting of Black people in the city, or Governor Pritzker, who actually is on my page, on my X page, talked about how he supports unions, which he, it's like, no, you don't. You actually support illegal aliens who come in to take and do what they can to survive, which means they take jobs at a lower rate of pay. When you take a job at a lower rate of pay, you lower the value of a unit of labor. So you don't help unions, especially American unions, if you're helping depress their ability to earn by bringing in illegal aliens. It's not possible. You cannot circle that square. You can't make it work. And yet Pritzker is out there lying to the people of Illinois, saying he's a big supporter of unions. He's not. He's a supporter of the Democrat Marxist Party at this point, who are seeking to undermine the very fabric of America. That's what's going on. So, and then obviously the transgender issue is something else we were talking about. We'll continue to talk about. So, as Chris was talking about within the context of the shootings, there's been massive and continuous evidence that the trans community is violent. It's because they have mental health issues. And let me be clear on this, because I think that we have folks who are, gay and lesbians. We love y'all. Look, I love lesbians because lesbians like what I like. Women, girls, what can I say? Sure. Anyway, back to the show. And the issue is really what can be done about mental health, because mental health is the issue. The idea that guns do this, or it's a mass shooting because the weapon was available, is insane. I would argue these people would have done other things to be violent, either knives or vehicles, which vehicles have been used in these crimes as well. So it's all nonsense. Everything the left says regarding mass shootings not being perpetrated by trans on a larger than normal basis, the evidence speaks for itself. You've had a number of attacks by the trans community, by mentally unstable people, and I think that's the important thing to do. Anyway, so that's it. That's my rant. By the way, did you know, Chris, before we bring in the guest, that Governor Pritzker said he stands up for unions? And did you know that if he takes a knee, because if he takes a knee, he would create a hole so big that Lake Michigan would rush in and like drain out, and he'd lose all of Lake Michigan. That's why.
I think the biggest hole in Illinois seems to be Brandon Johnson. So that's another story for another day.
Well, you know why he has the pointy head, right?
Oh, I don't know, because he wants to change his name to Beldar, or wants the trans to become a cone.
No. It's very practical, because he's kind of a basement dweller. Just saying. So when you're dwelling in a basement, a pointy head is a good thing to kind of burrow into the dirt.
Well, here's something for non-basement dwellers. And before I want to get to our really cool guest, because we talked about grifters like Al Sharpton already today. We're going to talk about the other grifter, George Soros. But first, you have something big happening, by the way, as well. And we want to you can step inside the unfiltered truth and check out Tony Shaffer or ColonelTonyShaffer.com. And this is where we have something called the Sentinel Circle, where people can get serious things we can't say even on Rumble and YouTube.
Yeah. So we're going to do a couple things. So you get two special things besides great content. We just produced a report on the whole Russia collusion thing that basically focuses on what I've said over the past, my goodness, 70 years. Boy, time flies, doesn't it, Chris? Wow. Yeah. Going back 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. Almost, 9 years. Where is the time gone? I don't feel any older. Do you feel older? I don't feel older. Anyway, you can get the special Russia collusion narrative hoax report that was prepared for this It's there. Go there. It's there. I wrote it, and it's a good report. So you get that. Plus, you get special content that a certain Chris Cordani may help out with, right?
Yep.
And our first guest was just texting with me, John Huddy, our own John Huddy from Newsmax. We're going to be, he was there in New York covering the attacks on 9/11. So we're going to do a special deep dive on 9/11 issues this month. We're going to start off with a reporter, like a real reporter. That's John Huddy. John is just back from overseas. I think he was just texting with me. So we're going to have John on, and then we're going to have, hopefully, he hasn't got back to me yet, but I'm pretty sure he'll come on. Richard Gage, Architects for Truth, on the buildings. We're going to have him come on, and we're going to be doing these. Oh, and then Kurt Weldon, and then Catherine Herridge. My friend Catherine is finally going to show up, and Catherine will be on one of the shows, probably the third one, I think.
This is
every
content.
Thursday. Every
Right.
Thursday.
It's exclusive.
And then-
content, something that
Yeah.
might get us kicked off of other platforms, but
That's right.
we'll deal with it.
Well, if you think I'm unfiltered here, wait till you get there.
Yeah.
Just saying. And then on Sunday, speaking of unfiltered Sundays, we're going to be doing a question and answer, where you can ask me questions, and I'll do my best to answer it. Should be interesting. So anyway, that's what we're doing. It's special. So don't walk, run to the website and join up. Join the Sentinel Circle, and you will thank us later, right, Chris?
It's ColonelTonyShaffer.com. It's
That's right.
ColonelTonyShaffer.com. And speaking of, again, we talked about Al Sharpton and grifters on that respect in the United States, but one of the biggest worldwide grifters is the man who has pretty much funded virtually every Democrat cause in the world, every leftist Marxist cause in the world, with the help of USAID and the American taxpayer, of course. In some respects, he made his fortune. He made his fortune starting off by selling out his own people in Germany, and of course, shortchanging and destroying economies of third world countries. Yet he's heralded as the hugest hero of the left, George Soros. We have Dr. Rachel Ehrenfeld, who wrote the book, The Soros Agenda. We're going to talk about this. Dr. Ehrenfeld,
Excellent.
welcome.
Nice to be with you.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. So we, a lot of our real friends follow this very closely, especially I think it was Agenda 21 and the other
And 2030.
World Economic Forum
gonna change
effort that is largely funded by Soros and his lieutenants, to include Klaus Schwab, who I think were two peas in a pod. So can you tell us a little bit about, first off, what motivated you to write the book? And secondly, what is the biggest takeaway from the book? So let's talk about first what motivated you to write the book.
Soros, when I first encountered Soros, it was after he, 1992, he managed to win between, he says, 1 billion, others say 10 billion pound by betting against the British pound.
Right.
And that's when in 1993, he started his operations in the United States by establishing the Open Society Institute, as it was called at the time. Its location is really, I live in Manhattan, it's around the corner. So my neighborhood was not very good neighborhood even before Mamdani decided that he wants to become a mayor. Or Soros and others have been funding him. So I was at the time working on terrorist financing, so didn't pay too much attention. But then when he started his Open Society Institute here, his first big venture was to invest millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, in efforts to legalize drugs in the United States.
Wow.
At the time, legalizing, if you said to somebody legalize drugs, I mean, it was unacceptable. It was inconceivable. Well, he made it all happen. He didn't go to Congress to lobby to change the laws. No. He started in Arizona and California with influencer establishing some drug legalization organizations that would work locally and working with politicians there. And he wanted to legalize all drugs, but Arizona kind of didn't agree, so he didn't really want any difficulties in his first big action to change the legal system, the laws in the United States. So he decided, okay, so let's go for medical marijuana. What is medical marijuana? There is no such a thing as medical marijuana, although I understand that many conservatives are buying into that and now investing money.
I know.
This shouldn't happen, and I hope that President Trump does not actually make it more available to people by changing the status of the law, because right now is scheduled as a drug like heroin, and there is a very big push, including Republicans, who want to make it like Tylenol. Okay, it is not. Soros also said at the time that marijuana is not addictive. He said that
No, it's addictive. I've seen people who get addicted to it. Trust me.
People go to emergency rooms. You will see many people who are getting addicted to it and have psychosis, and it affects the brain. There is huge, and there was a lot of research already done then to show the horrible damages of marijuana, not only to the brain, but also to the body. So causing cancer, all kind of things. Yeah. So, and I actually have a whole chapter about it in the book. His contention was that this will actually do away with the black market, so it will all become legal, and there will be no more crime. He said that he saw it as injustice, especially towards the black community, because most people who were arrested with drugs at the time were blacks. So that's how he started with his justice reform, all kind of anything that you want. That was the first one. And he actually made it acceptable. He worked hard. So he changed it. He developed his, I call it his Soros guerrilla law changing. And he, of course, enlisted Hollywood, etc. But he presented it all as reforming the justice system in the United States. And that went also to incarceration. I want to move it fast forward. So the whole idea of funding the election of prosecutors that don't have any will or intention to actually prosecute, to actually follow the law. And that was a big step. And it took a while before people woke up to that. Since then, he has been funding, it's not only prosecutors, district attorneys, it's judges, wherever they are elected. Any public official who is running as a Democrat today can get probably support from Soros organizations, if not directly, indirectly. He has been the biggest funder of the Democratic Party. So when he started with I read his statement about why he wants to legalize drugs. And I said, well, I've dealt with drug addiction actually for many, many years. My PhD dissertation was about about laws that are provide laws that force drug addicts for treatment. So I knew a lot about drug addiction, and I said, well, what's his intention? This is very strange. And I started to follow him then, and then because I've been a lot to the former Soviet republics, I saw Soros everywhere. And I was really interested. I was sent by the State Department at the time to give seminars, anti-corruption and anti-money laundering to the former Soviet Republic, legal teams, prosecutors, judges, etc., and law enforcement. And so I met and heard a lot and saw that he was actually distributing also USAID money as his.
Right.
So he was getting the money from USAID, but he didn't say it was coming from USAID.
American taxpayer money, mind you.
Yeah. So when I asked at the State Department, well, why don't you insist that you get the credit for it? You are helping these countries, right? And they said, well, he has many more roots and many more people working for his foundations in these countries than we do. So we don't mind, which I didn't think was a very good answer. So I started following because I said, well, this is a very interesting organization that he has been developing. And he from the get-go, I was intervening in the domestic affairs of the countries he had foundations in it. They have foundations now. They cut down, but they had more than 120. The numbers are not clear now because they made some changes. But I decided to follow him then and wanted to write about him for a long time. People told me, who's Soros? Who is Soros? No publisher was interested in Soros. But I collected information which you cannot find on the internet because not everything is on the internet, only things that somebody is interested in having them there. So I decided before to write the book because I said, well, the way things are going and the way the left is getting stronger, progressivism is getting stronger, the way his different justice programs, economic justice, racial justice, climate justice, worker justice, no king, whatever, all things, said, well, and he was funding also Palestinians, and funding Palestinians, even if not directly, sending money to indirectly often to Palestinian organizations which have been designated as terrorist organizations, including
let me break this down a little bit for the folks to understand a little bit better. Everything you're saying is completely true based on what I know. And let's just break it down a little bit. The Soros funding of efforts to, quote unquote, create free drugs and free environments, you see the effects of that in Portland, Seattle, in the inner city of
everywhere.
Yeah.
Go to
So this is, and by the way, the Chinese are doing this too. Just saying, it's not because fentanyl is another tool, but it's very clear that drugs are being used to undermine the fabric of society.
When you create a permissible environment, once it was, unthinkable and unacceptable. But when you create a permissible environment where it's okay to use drugs, you can even buy it now in stores. Then anything goes. And actually, the illegal sales of drugs have increased. But he also said that he's doing it because he wants to change the United States of America. He doesn't like capitalism. He doesn't like the republic. He doesn't like America as a superpower. And he thought that it should be different. And he even wrote some of his ideas of amendments to the Constitution, because he said, well, that's old. What did they know 250 years ago? Things have moved on. So I followed this. How does he want to change it? Well, he changed it in many, many ways. He started actually came up with the idea of political action committees to collect money so that you don't really know. You can collect as much as you want and distribute as much as you want. So he has had a lot of influence on the money.
So let me hit this point real quick. So we, United States, have suffered the effects of this evil. He is funding evil in ways that are very sophisticated, using personal wealth. But then, Rachel, he goes on, like you point out, to use USAID. He infiltrates via his political operatives, DeSantis, Anthony Weiner, Uma Abedin, a bunch of others who were clearly all working for his cause.
Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
And so they get in there, and then USAID is supposed to be doing good. USAID didn't do any good. USAID was funding this larger effort, World Economic Forum and the Soros Open Societies Foundation. So what they would do is they'd throw money at a small startup, to your point. They'd start a small political action committee or nonprofit, just $10,000. That nonprofit then files all the paperwork to become legitimate, tax-free, and then they start putting in for government grants from USAID. So basically, he gives the seed money for all these organizations start absorbing all of the government funding that goes to these good causes, and then he directs it. Is that right? That's pretty much the scheme, right? That's part of the scheme.
It's part of the scheme, but it was not all. And he had more than, so the Carnegie Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, all the others had actually gave money for the same things. So he used a lot of not his money, but other people's money in order to spread his ideas. But he was really usually the first to come up with things, and the other followed. And he has been really the biggest funder of the Democratic Party. Yep. Now his son Alex came in June 23, who just married Huma.
Yeah, Weiner's leftovers, if you will, right?
Yeah,
well,
Anthony Weiner's leftovers.
Yeah, well, it's more than Weiner's leftovers.
You got the leftover hot dog. That's right.
She is very. I don't know how hot she is, but she's very. She's radioactive because she has very interesting connections to the Muslim Brotherhood.
Of course. And by the way, on that note, we're working with our allies in England, the Association of British Muslims, to highlight the fact that the Muslim Brotherhood needs to be declared a terrorist organization. Just wanted to throw that in.
Oh, I want to throw something else at you too, Doctor. You brought up that George Soros is a major funder of the Democrat Party, which we all know, and he does it kind of in a sneaky way. Obviously, it's the money laundering and everything. But it's funny because his influence shows in subtle ways as well. I used to hear one person who gets a lot of his money, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, an otherwise less really a loudmouth but ineffectual congresswoman who mouths off about everything under the sun she doesn't talk about. But for about a period of 4 or 5 months, she was yammering on and adding Viktor Orban into the Trump's a dictator discussion. And you all know that Viktor Orban stopped George Soros in his own country of Hungary.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
He's using his money to peddle worldwide influence out of the mouths of the loudest Democrats. Look, Cortez doesn't even know who Viktor Orban is. She probably thinks the guy sells shoes.
It doesn't matter. He has been funding Rashida Tlaib. Rashida Tlaib didn't declare her. She has to report to Congress about her income, right? So she didn't report, for example, on about more than $225,000 she received from the Soros Foundation in 2016, 2017. For example, how much money she has gotten since, I don't know, this was directly. Very often people are getting money indirectly. Soros Foundation sends money to the Tides Foundation. The Tides Foundation then sends the money to whichever projects he wants to fund, and there are others. So the Arabella consultancy company in Washington, D.C. had been actually exposed. He funnels money through so many venues that an AI will not be able to find it because the information has not been put in or recognizable as such. Everything is documented in my book. I haven't written one sentence which has not been reviewed, which has not been substantiated, at least from 2 or 3 sources. So it had extensive legal review. And I quote Soros a lot because why should we say it's not my opinion, it's his opinion. Let's see what he did with his intentions. And he did a lot of damage. He supported the like during the Obama administration, he supported the Muslim Brotherhood revolution, the Arab Spring, big time.
Well, I think that, well, so we're running out of time, but I'd like to have you come back and go through this in a lot more detail. Would you be willing to do that, Doctor? Because I think
sure.
Our audience would love that. So would I. So, by the way, one of the notable, the Soros agenda, check it out. We'll have the doctor back to talk more about this. But one of the things on a personal note, even Fox News has been subsumed by this. And here's why I know. Back during the last years of the Obama administration, there was issues relating to the southwest border and these migrant caravans coming up. And it turned out that Soros was working with our State Department to fund these things. He was actually funding the effort. And then one of my friends, Dr. Chris Farrell of Judicial Watch, went on the air on Fox News with the late and great Lou Dobbs and said on air, hey, Soros is funding this. Rachel, Chris Farrell was permanently banned for daring to call out George Soros. Think about that.
And people are afraid. I mean, people are afraid from lawsuits. You know, he has a lot of money. He can sue people. And Fox doesn't want to get involved in, they have been involved in other things too. But people are afraid. People are afraid.
Quick note, I want to throw this in, though, Doctor. Donald Trump wants RICO charges, wants racketeering charges against George Soros. You think those are going to stick?
They will have to, for RICO, they will have to prove that he actually, how he benefited from it, okay?
Right.
And that will be, so I hope that Kash Patel can actually do a very good job. I would be glad to help. It is really complicated. He started working with CASA. You remember the woman from CASA translating the Salvadorian poor, Abrego.
Oh, yeah. The Maryland man.
Yeah.
Maryland dad.
He's Spanish. He knows English. He lived here for many years. But CASA started actually is a communist anti-American organization that started in the 90s. In 1986, because they were opposing the American intervention in communist revolutions in Nicaragua, in Guatemala, in El Salvador, etc. So it started here, and that organization since has boomed. Soros, I'm not aware of his funding them before, but he started funding them big time in 1995, 96, because he was not happy with Clinton's Immigration Reform Act that he passed. And so that's when they started also supporting the illegal immigration or illegal migration of South Americans into the United States, and in Los Angeles opening legal offices to provide them with legal help. So this has been going on for a very, very, very long time, and he has been behind it from the get-go.
So 2 things before we go. So I support, and I hope Kash Patel and Pam Bondi do something about this, because I think if nothing else, we have to have an investigation to ascertain how badly penetrated USAID was of this sort of nonsense, because there's still people.
Not only what was, how many people who had been working with these organizations are working now in government and elected offices. I mean,
yeah. Well, I know that Marco Rubio announced this last week that USAID is gone, but Samantha Power, who was involved in this, she is corrupt. She is a Soros demon. Just saying. I'll be polite. And the other thing that obviously we want to know is, what is he going to? He's not going to give up. So my last question to you is, how do we get ahead of this? Now that we're educating ourselves, what do we do next to stop this?
This is why I wrote the book. I wrote the book to show his modus, to demonstrate his modus operandi. If you know how somebody is thinking, if you know how somebody is implementing his ideas, then you have a way to try and follow him and try to stop him. So this is why I wrote the Soros agenda. It's in the book. The focus is really on the United States. It's not only the United States, but the focus is on the United States, especially because I thought that will help actually to stop him if people are really interested. So this is why I wrote the book. So it's available on Amazon. It's available if you go to acdemocracy.org, American Center for Democracy.org. You will find many more details about this and where to buy it. So Amazon and Barnes & Nobles for sure.
Great. So, Rachel, thank you for being here. Chris, please, I'd like to have her back because I want to talk more about the upcoming hopeful indictments. Hopefully, we're going to see some indictments out of this.
Yeah,
but I want to talk more about kind of the tendrils which exist within the United States so people understand that if there was, I'm a retired spy, so if ever there was a Bond villain, it's Soros. Soros is the ultimate
him and Klaus
Bond
Schwab.
villain.
Yeah, him and Schwab.
Well,
yeah,
they're together. They probably would be able to build a big old secret island somewhere where they have they cloned Anthony Wieners and they run around as pool boys. Just saying.
More ex-girlfriends for Alex Soros, I guess. So that's how it works.
Soros just celebrated, George celebrated his 95th birthday on August 12th. He is not in a very good health. He has not been seen in public for a very long time. And so if Cash and Bondi want to do something, they better do it very quickly. And by the way, our Treasury Secretary, our wonderful Treasury Secretary, knows about George Soros's financial operations more than anybody else.
Interesting.
Yeah, so, is Alex as slick as George, or is Alex going to maybe bumble a bit here?
Alex is more political, but now he has somebody who is advising him, his wonderful wife, Huma Abedin, who advised Hillary Clinton. Remember Benghazi, remember the Arab Spring. But Alex he stated when he stepped into his father's very big shoes, that he's more political than his father. And he is true to his words. He has been spending he spent just now $20 billion to stop the Trump's cleaning up Washington, D.C. from crime. They spent $20 million on demonstrations. Now, if you take the $20 million and invest it actually in law enforcement and cleaning up the place, then you could say you can help everybody and save the country a lot of money.
Yeah.
No,
but it was a failure. Let's keep this in mind. This was a failure. This move was a huge failure.
Well, I thought it was cute that they paid all these old white people to go protest against black people being secured. Just saying, that wasn't a good look. You should
have seen the big demonstration yesterday here in front of Trump Tower in Manhattan.
Oh, I saw that. There was like 24 people.
White. And
all white. Yeah, old white people. So, yeah. So, look, Rachel, we'd love to have you come back. By the way, I used to run, I technically do run Herb London Center, Dr. London.
Yeah. Dr. London.
We miss Herb. Herb was wonderful. So obviously he would have been, we already knew about some of this. And Herb, if God rest his soul, Herb would be fighting along with us on this issue if he was still alive. So,
We know that he's helping us from above.
Great. All right. Well, great. Well, and
here it
we'll
is.
have you back. Yeah.
Wait. I want to throw this at you guys. This is what Alex Soros was paying for.
Yeah.
The Pots and Pans parade.
$20 billion. $20 million, folks. $20 million.
They pay to demonstrators in different places. So, for example, last week there was a Republican congressman who is running for election in Cleveland, Ohio. and they were paying. So some demonstrators were interviewed, and they were paid. They were recruited to come to demonstrate, and they were paid $200 for a demonstration. But so I mean, people can really make a lot of money, and when you see the big lines of, I don't know, thousands of people in New York, of course, the prices are different because the cost of living is different in different places, right? So in New York, it's not $200. In New York, it's $400. I was thinking, well, I should go and join them. I mean, you know, they have demonstrations here all
money.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to when they start protesting Governor Pritzker for him eating too many Pizza Huts. I want to be in that line so I can get all you can eat.
Yeah,
but that's a different story. That's a different story. Anyway, so Rachel, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. The Patriots love you being here. This is great education. I'd like to continue the conversation in the near future, right, Chris? Can we do that sometime? Not too distant.
Do that. Yeah, we definitely do that. And tomorrow we have we're going to talk about another Bond villain, Xi Jinping, and his bioweapons research and everything else with the CCP with Dr. Li Mingyan.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Doctor.
Thanks.
So, thank you. And so, a program note: we are. By the way, thank you to all the new subscribers. We see you when you sign up. It's been great. We appreciate you guys getting on early. More to come. There it is. So what we want to do is continue to have, people join. This is not like we're not trying to force you into this like the Communist Party. Chris looks a bit like Lenin. He's not like Lenin, right?
Well, I mean, I can't sing like him. I'm more than, I guess I look more like Ringo though.
No. The other, the hammer and sickle Lenin, not the good Lenin.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
did John Lennon ever have a goatee and all that? I don't think he did, but
no. But you think about it, that Michael, what is it, Shepard fellow, whatever his name, Matthew, whatever his name is, the guy that shot him. You think everybody hated him, but you think he'd be an American hero or a worldwide hero if he just moved his gun a little bit to the left.
It would have been. I've got my. Speaking of that. I've got my Yoko Ono glasses I can put on here.
Wait, close up on this one.
Yeah, there's my Yoko. I ran over Yoko in Vegas and I got the glasses. So, it just kind of fell off. So I grabbed them and ran. But see, I'm doing my Yoko Ono face. See? Can you see my Yoko Ono face? Yeah.
You look better than her. You probably sing better than her too, by the way.
Probably. I could sing like Mark Knopfler a little bit for Dire Straits, but for another day. For now, go check out what's the website again, Chris? I should know this.
ColonelTonyShaffer.com.
Colonel Tony Shaffer, right? I think that's what it is.
I'll scroll that on the bottom here. There you go.
We'll be doing some special stuff. We'll talk more about this a little bit tomorrow because our first interview, my first interview with John Huddy, Newsmax's John Huddy is going to be this Thursday. I think 8 p.m. Is that what we're going to do?
8 p.m. and live. And and only access through ColonelTonyShaffer.com.
So there you go. We're done for today, right? I think we're done. Are we done for today?
I think we are. Okay. Then I'll sign off.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'll sign off. So no, I just trying to make sure we didn't have to cover anything else before we go. Changes are coming. Can I say changes are coming? I guess I can say changes.
That I think will be announced later.
Yeah. So just let people know there's a lot of things going on. The Chris does not sit up in New York drinking whole bottles of maple syrup. He doesn't
not
do
anymore.
Not anymore. He got over his maple syrup addiction.
Oh boy. Heyo.
Sorry, but more things, good things are coming. Right. So that's it. So until tomorrow. We went long today, but it's fun. So thanks, Chris, for running everything.
Anthony Weiner said.
We'll see you all tomorrow morning.